All right, so today I want to update you on a topic that we've had discussions about on this channel before. It's a topic that's popular amongst truck drivers and freight brokers. It can be a bit controversial sometimes depending on what side of the fence you stand on. The topic is broker rate transparency. Just in case you don't already know what broker rate transparency is, it's a law, 49 CFR 371.3, that requires freight brokers to share transaction records with carriers if they ask between the broker and their shippers. So essentially that means that I have to share what my rates are in lanes, documentation with carriers if they request. Now, it's a law, but it's not gone through the rulemaking process yet. So that's what we're talking about today. There was an article this morning published by Freight Waves, and the title of the article is FMCSA Shuts Door on Brokers in Rate Transparency Dispute. So this must mean that the FMCSA has come to a decision on this law. It says that Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration denied the TIA's petition to remove a requirement that freight brokers disclose to carriers transaction records between the brokers and the shippers. So that essentially means that the TIA wants to remove that so that freight brokers do not have to share transaction records between them and their shippers. Now, there are two other petitions out there. One is by OOIDA and the other is by the SBTC. The OOIDA is the Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association, and the SBTC is the Small Business and Transportation Coalition. Both of these are truck driver associations. And they filed a petition requesting that brokers be prohibited from denying carriers the ability to access such records. So they want carriers to have that ability and not be denied by brokers when they request those transaction records. Now, here is how it all comes down. After careful consideration, the FMCSA has determined that the TIA's petition does not contain adequate justification to initiate rulemaking. It further states that the FMCSA noted and had reviewed all comments on TIA's request and held a public listening session on it as well. It says the FMCSA believes that elimination of the records disclosure provision would be contrary to the stated transportation policy goals, including promotion of fairness and efficiency in the transportation industry. On the other hand, the FMCSA did initiate formal rulemaking on the two other petitions by the OOIDA and the SBTC. It says, quoting from the SBTC's petition, the FMCSA noted that the group explained how freight rates at that time dropped drastically and that motor carriers have reported instances of brokers engaging in profiteering, price gouging, and lowballing tactics. FMCSA also underscored SBTC's claims at the time that brokers in some instances were receiving commissions of up to 65% on loads due to the sudden freight shortage in the early days of the pandemic, combined with overcapacity in the trucking markets. Now, they also make this assertion. It says to evade regulations, some brokers have resorted to requiring carriers as parties to broker transactions to waive their rights to obtain documents to show the amount the shipper is paying the broker. And it doesn't stop there. In addition to strengthening the broker transparency provision in the regulation, OOIDA also wants FMCSA to require that brokers provide an electronic copy of each transaction record automatically within 48 hours after the contractual service has been completed. Here is the TIA's position. They're saying our problem with electronic submission of data from our members is that this is our customers' information, and we're not confident this information will be kept confidential. It says some brokers or certain brokers have to include contract language so that proprietary shipper information is not disclosed. And these groups want to make it illegal. No one is forcing carriers to sign these contracts. even to work with a broker. He added, whenever there's a downturn, as in the current market, the freight rates are driven by supply and demand, but our guys always seem to look like the villain. Now, where does this leave us all? I'm not sure how this rulemaking is going to impact freight brokers and truck drivers. I'm not sure if it's going to have a real impact on how things are currently run. Because what I wonder is it really going to matter because there's a rule out there now? How does that stop a freight broker from saying, hey, I'm just going to go to another carrier if a carrier requests transaction records? What do you think? Do you think this is going to really change things? You really think that this is going to change how freight brokers and truck drivers operate? Let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope this information was helpful. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, I will leave a link in the description. It's my 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. Gives you a chance to come into the office and you can watch me as a freight broker move loads, talk to shippers and carriers, so that you can get a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. And then if you want to learn more about how we go out and use software so that we can go out and find trucks to cover our loads, I'll leave you a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.